With lawsuits looming, debt mounting, and neighbors turning their backs on him, Donald Trump is already hitting some serious snags post-presidency. Here's a look inside Donald Trump's new life. Though Trump has made history as the first president to be impeached twice, the fact that he ever managed to hold the position in the first place is unequivocally his most notable endeavor. So what happens to that political legacy now? Few would want to leave behind little more than a partially built border wall, an unfettered pandemic, and a wake of lawsuits, but Trump isn't just anyone. The former reality star appeared to cling on to the presidency until the 11th hour, peddling claims of voter fraud, falsely declaring himself the winner of the election.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win.
And arguably inciting an insurrection, which is the subject of his second impeachment trial. His efforts were to no avail, and hours after Joe Biden took his presidential oath, the new president began erasing some of Trump's most prized policies. According to the New York Times, Biden signed 17 executive orders aimed at, quote, reversing the gravest damages caused by Trump, effectively starting the process of eradicating his legacy. This included rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement and remaining a part of the World Health Organization, ending the travel ban on predominantly Muslim countries, halting construction of the border wall, and strengthening the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. Trump's use of Twitter became synonymous with his presidency, and he regularly used it to peddle conspiracy theories, circumvent the need for official press briefings, embolden his base, and cyberbully his critics. His account was so popular that the New York Times kept a 598-item list of the people, places, and things he insulted using the platform. But those days have come to an end, and if Trump is slowly descending into madness while watching Fox News from his room in Mar-a-Lago, none of us get to see it. Just before his rioting supporters stormed the Capitol, Trump proclaimed, "You will never take back our country with weakness." Shortly after, Twitter announced that it was permanently suspending his account due to, quote, the risk of further incitement of violence. This, of course, didn't sit well, and Trump tried to send messages through his campaign and digital director before their accounts were also suspended. Twitter wasn't alone in its actions, though. The former president was also booted from YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, though his future on those platforms is up in the air. Since the attempted insurrection, former President Trump has found himself at odds with a number of his most fervent supporters. Even weeks before the assault on the U.S. Capitol, Axios ran the shocking headline, "Trump turns on everyone." This reportedly includes former Vice President Mike Pence, who certified the election results, former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and even Senator Mitch McConnell, who's long been one of Trump's most vocal champions. The thing is, Trump didn't just turn on his allies. They started turning on him, too. According to the New York Times, McConnell privately backed Trump's second impeachment. Fox News also seemingly jumped ship.
First of all, Mr. President, we don't work for you. I don't work for you. My job is to cover you, not fawn over you or rip you. Just report on you.
And even Rudy Giuliani, who once gracefully stood in the parking lot of Four Seasons Total Landscaping supporting Trump, was scorned. In the weeks leading up to his second impeachment, Fox News reported that Trump had no lawyer to defend him. Officials told the Washington Post that Trump instructed his aides not to pay Giuliani's legal fees and was upset with a $20,000 per day charge for the former New York City mayor's attempts to overturn the election. Though it may have initially appeared that Trump supporters welcomed the former first couple to Palm Beach, Florida with open arms, that wasn't exactly the case. Former President Trump's base, at least in the Sunshine State, appears to be dwindling, particularly in the posh community he may soon call home. According to the New York Times, only a small group of supporters showed up at the airport to watch him land. A local real estate agent told the outlet, "Nobody that I've spoken to is looking forward to him coming back to Palm Beach." As of the end of January 2021, Trump's fledgling Mar-a-Lago retirement has already been marred by a feud with the neighbors. According to the Washington Post, the owners of the club's neighboring property are trying to force him out, claiming he's got no legal right to live there because it's not a residential property. Apparently, in the 1990s, Trump signed an agreement converting Mar-a-Lago from his private residence to a private club. If Trump's neighbors win and he's booted from Mar-a-Lago, it's unclear exactly where the alleged billionaire will live. The real estate mogul has essentially been exiled from his former kingdom of New York City, but he's the one who exiled himself. Throughout his presidency, the New York native has framed his birthplace as an enemy, threatening to withhold federal funds and life-saving coronavirus vaccines from the state. Governor Andrew Cuomo even went as far as saying New Yorkers think he's the worst president. According to Politico, Cuomo said, "Forget bodyguards. Trump better have an army if he thinks he's going to walk down the streets in New York. He is persona non grata in New York City, and I think he knows that. And he'll never come back to New York because New Yorkers will never forget how gratuitously mean he has been." Trump may have no plans to live in New York, but he was still technically working there. After the insurrection at the Capitol, however, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announced that he was canceling all of the Trump Organization's contracts with the city. De Blasio said, "The city of New York will not be associated with those unforgivable acts in any shape, way, or form." While Melania is unpacking boxes at Mar-a-Lago, former President Trump is gearing up for his second impeachment trial, a brand new historic milestone fit for a brand new lawyer. According to ABC News, Rudy Giuliani initially claimed to be on the president's defense team, but experts warn that the former president would likely be convicted if his longtime attorney led the charge. More importantly, Giuliani could be called as a witness, especially because he was the one who called for, in his words, trial by combat prior to the insurrection. Since then, Trump has hired Butch Bowers, a lawyer from South Carolina. It's not clear if anyone else will be joining the former president's legal team, but we do know that the real estate mogul does not have his usual support in Congress. According to CNN, the GOP, which was once unified in its seemingly unconditional admiration for Trump, has fractured. An anonymous Republican member of Congress told the network that Mitch McConnell wants Trump gone, even though the former Senate Majority Leader suggested delaying the trial. In order for the former president to be convicted, it would take just 17 Republican senators to join the 50 Democrats, who all, presumably, will vote to convict. According to Reuters, Trump has been mulling over the idea of a self-pardon for any charges related to ongoing investigations, but that would have only protected him on the federal level. That means the responsibility to prosecute would be on the states, who are already aggressively pursuing Trump for various suspected crimes. Most notably, as the New York Times reports, Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus R. Vance Jr. has been, quote, fighting in court for more than a year to obtain Trump's personal and corporate tax returns. The week before President Biden's inauguration, CNN reported that the investigation widened to include the Trump's Westchester compound. And though we don't know the exact focus of the investigation, court papers suggest it's related to insurance, tax, and bank fraud. Beyond that, prosecutors in Georgia are reportedly contemplating a criminal investigation into the former president's alleged attempt to overturn the state's election results.
Frankly, we did win this election.
This is directly related to the now infamous phone call where Trump urged Brad Raffensperger, Georgia's Secretary of State, to, quote, find 11,780 votes. Raffensperger reportedly dismissed the president's baseless claims of fraud. For Trump, time could be running out. Trump is still apparently a billionaire, but the former reality star is reportedly only a fraction as wealthy as he was when he first took office. According to Forbes, his net worth dipped by $600 million, or nearly 20%, in 2020 to $2.5 billion. He is inching his way to the very bottom of the Forbes 400. These losses could be just the tip of the iceberg. According to Forbes, the Trump Organization was regularly unloading between $32 million and $53 million worth of real estate year over year. In 2020, they sold almost nothing, but his golf and resort properties struggled to make up the deficit. According to the New York Times, they were losing money prior to the pandemic, but it got much worse when they were forced to, quote, drastically reduce hotel occupancy and close some restaurants and bars as the virus spread. The icing on the debt cake? Following the violent riot at the Capitol, the PGA moved its May 2022 championships away from the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey. Over the next few years, Trump reportedly has more than $300 million in debt coming due, which he's personally guaranteed. The real question is whether or not he'll be able to pay it as his most precious lenders cut ties. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Nicki Swift videos about your favorite celebs are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.